Hi, I'm Laura Hicks, and welcome to Scale Up for Success Summit, the virtual summit that is sponsored by Scale Up Biz, whose world-class leaders are dedicated to helping business leaders grow their companies while honoring people in the workplace. That's why we're bringing together the top business authors and coaches in this series so that you can learn firsthand some of their tips and tricks of the trade. Now, it's my honor to introduce with us today, Michelle Misch. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, welcome. Good to be here.
So one of the things that I love to ask is, what is something that people don't know about you?
Oh, okay. Gosh, what is some of the things that people don't know? I think some people don't know how much of a techie that I am. Longtime clients and friends do, but a lot of people assume because I'm quote unquote spiritual, and meditate,
Right?
that the technology somehow doesn't fit into that. But yes, I love technology and what it can do. I just think it's amazing. I love anything innovative and inventive that can help people, achieve their dreams and their goals and make them more creative.
And I can see how people might get there. We don't tend to we think of one as right brain, one as left brain, right?
Exactly.
But we have some of each. So
Yes.
that's nice. So how do you manage stress? I think I have a good idea knowing what you do.
Yes. Well, and that's another thing that could be like what people could say, well, I didn't know you did that. I think managing stress, you need to have a baseline, a foundation of what has worked for you in the past. But I do feel that you need to be open to change. You need to be open to integrating different things because sometimes one thing works to reduce stress or alleviate it. Other times that may not work as well, or sometimes it's going to be a concert of things that work. So for me, of course, meditation, movement, walking, just getting out and walking, and not just in nature. I love walking in nature. I love hiking. I love riding my bike along the beach. But I also quaint places that raise my energy or my vibration, where there's cute boutiques or restaurants or other creative people that I can see, really greatly reduces stress. And also there is that interconnection when you live near a community or within a community where you can walk, you see people that or, other business owners that or places that you frequent. That alleviates a lot of stress because you're getting that interconnectedness. People a lot of times think that stress had to be managed. When people talk about, the connection, a lot of times people think that it has to be one-on-one connection. Studies coming out about that. Yes, it helps to have one-on-one connection or to meet in person. However, just going out and seeing other people and waving to people or just noticing other people, humankind, greatly alleviates stress. So the isolation that people experience a lot with stress would be because they're not having some kind of meaningful contact or interconnection, some kind of connection. And that can be, that doesn't always have to be, in person.
Great lengths. It doesn't have to necessarily be your best friend or sibling, or it doesn't have to be something like that. I was going to say, I can see how that would be just the being able to connect with humanity in general. Especially after last year that we had.
Yes.
would be a good thing for most of us.
Just to see other people and smiling, waving, and just saying hi. Those kinds of connections really greatly reduce the stress levels.
Well, that's a great bit of advice. And you're right. Not exactly what I expected, knowing that you wrote a book on meditation for everyday living.
Yes, but there is a walking meditation in there where you observe. So movement really helps us alleviate stress.
Yeah, but great advice. And I was going to say, so how did you become an entrepreneur?
Boy, that is such an interesting, because I still don't really consider myself, I definitely consider myself an entrepreneur, but not a quote unquote business owner, which is interesting because the other day a colleague of mine was saying your business, or I have a business, but I don't know. I became an entrepreneur out of following what I like and what I love to do, and studying and retraining and just jumping in and starting to do it, and having great mentors, whether formally through training in school, or people that I admired in, not only in my chosen field,
Right.
but all fields. And I remember one time, because I studied a lot of different things. At one point, I studied even massage therapy, holistic health, holistic healing, became a holistic healthcare practitioner. And a friend of mine had this referral service that referred for like things like energy work, acupuncture, massage therapists. And I also do energy work such as Reiki and what we call pranic healing. And I was talking, one of the patients, clients, these are very wealthy, so they flew you in different places. And he was asking about myself, and I told him what I did. And he said, "Oh, you're an entrepreneur." And I thought, oh. And then I realized, I looked it up and I thought, yes, I am. And I think I've always been an entrepreneur because I've always done things that I like doing and would turn hobbies into money-making ventures, even as a child. So I've just have that naturally, and I kind of either naturally know what to do, and I also seek out people that can be helpful.
That's great advice. So along the way, there must have been a mistake or two. And I was going to say, so what do you wish you might have been able to avoid? And what did you learn?
Gosh, so many. Probably one thing that I probably would have stayed doing longer, because I had a career while I was getting my business going of modeling and acting. I probably would have stayed in that longer and parlayed, I probably would have also looked longer, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs necessarily don't, and a really good.
You mean the vision for your business? A little
Yeah,
longer
well,
term
not a
vision for the
vision,
business?
but long-term steps and goals, not just a
Okay.
vision. Because that's another thing I think, I learned kind of the hard way is you can have a vision. A lot of people have a vision, but if you don't have those goals and those steps or plan, even better than, the goal is what are the plans to get there and what do you see on each way, right?
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, I would have probably, mapped things out more, and which is what I help people do now is when you go through that expertise. The other thing that I learned, actually from a business owner that still owns a restaurant that I used to frequent at and write some articles. I used to write columns for magazines, online and regular. I was having trouble finding people to hire, which I thought maybe it was just indicative of my career.
Yep.
And he said, no, it's really, really hard to find good people and to keep them. And he, as well as someone else, actually, that is my, one of my, assistants has a background. She does the booking and scheduling and stuff, but she has a background in finance and is a stockbroker and a stock trader. And she said, because in the beginning, I would have one assistant that did everything.
Right.
And both of them, yeah, I had that a few times, said, no, the best thing to do is you hire or work with a few people that do different things. They may be trained in one or two different areas and can jump in.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, or a lot of solopreneurs have that one assistant or even only two. I work with between 3 and 5 people, 3 regular people and 2 that rotate in. Okay. And so that is one thing that I would say, whether you're bartering services for services, doing that kind of trade, or hiring, it is best to have in the beginning of what you're doing, not all the eggs and all the support in one basket as a person.
So And what you're talking about goes with along with another interview that I've done is specialization. So you're talking about people who do particular things very well. For instance, if you have the need to work with Excel spreadsheets, maybe have an assistant that has some additional skills other than knowing how to open up Excel,
Yes.
to be able to work within Excel if that's something that you need to have done. And while meanwhile, somebody might have great phone skills. So if you had follow-ups to be done, you would have somebody that would work on that. And what I also heard you say in terms of, building and working with your team is that it's acceptable to have multiple people who work part-time.
Yes.
So you hire them for the block of hours or the amount of time that you need them in a week or so much in a month, and work with them in that manner.
And nothing wrong with that, because there are really great people that work this way, and it suits you. And you also get to, the other thing that I learned is by having multiple people within a team, whether it is the team that, that I use all the time, or people weaving in, is I learn a lot. You learn a lot, and you get different perspectives that you wouldn't normally get, because, as great as ideas as I have, and those people that have worked with me,
yes,
we need fresh sometimes, or look, or just a pause. And now with virtual assistants, people working more in the quote unquote, gig economy, bit by bit part, whatever, contract working, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I actually think it actually opens you up more to understand more, and to be able actually to do more. And also it helps you streamline. That's another thing that I learned. It helps you streamline, like, what is really necessary for someone to do, or not do, or where is the payoff, not just for me, but to my clients, my students, where is the service, what is really needed. And you can't always do that. And you can't necessarily always do that, even from questionnaires or surveys, because a lot of people don't like figuring those things out. But new people will bring in a different approach, a different, like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what's getting us feedback. Or if they work with other solopreneurs or companies, they can then bring that expertise to you and say, hey, this is what they're doing over here in X, Y, and Z.
And again, breaking down a little bit of that barrier as entrepreneurs, where we think we need to know it all.
Yes. That's another thing that, so helped me. I let go so much of that, especially because in the beginning, things kind of really came quite easy for me. And then I just realized, I could either be a perfectionist and try to manage things, or have things done the way that I see it, I let a lot of that go. Another thing I started asking people that worked with me, especially in social media, people that came on board to help me with that, was because my language as a teacher and having a certain level of expertise is different than the average person that doesn't have this training. I say, what do you think it should say? I as long as it still has my voice or flavor of my voice.
Right.
But what do you think is helpful? I ask that now with workshops, seminars, whether it's, clients and students, or those that work with me, again, like in social media, I'll say, well, what are you looking for? Because I may say it a certain way and it just goes over.
Right.
Or like, what are you trying to say?
Because you're like, that's how I take it in.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I take it in. And they will tell me, no, I'm looking for this and this. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, and they're like, it's the same thing, but it's different wording. And I'll go, okay, what are people looking for? What are you looking for? Let's bring that in.
It's really important when you want to connect with your audience, to connect where they're at.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So the other question I was going to ask you about is, we were going to talk about business in looking at your business and how it's structured. If it's structured more in project-based or more financial based. So I'll have you take lead on that.
Okay, very, very important distinction that I actually learned because I had a talk show years ago in Chicago, and I was in negotiations for money, finance, and contracts. And so a certain direction that they wanted to go in, and I had a certain vision, or wasn't,
Right.
just some little differences we were ironing out.
Yep.
And the executive producer asked me, said, well, are you more project based or focused or finance? And I said, oh, what does that mean? And she said, well, some people just need to make a certain amount of money, and that's that. They don't care what they do. They're in sales, boom, I'm making this much money, and that's great. And then there are those people that are much more project incentive, that they have to like what they're doing or feel a sense of fulfillment. Maybe it's more creative. I am the latter. And now, a lot of times, when I would do seminars, including this kind of information, people will be like, "Oh no, you know, like I'm not going to make that much money or earn that much income or money." And that's not true. You just have to know your incentive.
Yeah.
And neither one is better or worse than the other, or
Right.
nothing to do with that. It's just knowing you and what is your incentive. And once you know your incentive and what's the basis of how you like to work,
Yeah.
then you can really harness that, energy and that vision, and the sky's the limit. But very important distinction that I feel that a lot of, not even just entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, but people within a startup or a business also have to know that, because that's going to be your incentive. And that's what's going to, in the end of the day, when things get tough, that's also what's going to fuel you. That's what's going to make you make that extra push that we always need to do as an entrepreneur.
So I know
that incentive, it's very difficult to do.
I know you explained it, but I'm going to have you explain it in another way. So can you give us an example of one or the other, of someone who is more motivated financially or someone who's more motivated project-based by the actual work they do?
Yes. So I think sales, there would be a person that would just be able to take a job or be in a career. And I've known people that have done this because of the amount of money that they can, quote unquote, make, the income level, right, or potential. And so they choose that career or job because of the amount of money. Now, if you're more project incentive, your incentives come from project, you like to work more project based, that's where your fulfillment comes in. That works in the short term, but not in the long term. Because in the long term, that opens you up to burnout and worse. That opens you up to the people that I come to me, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, that say, I hate my life and I hate what I do. I never wanted to do this. I have a lot of clients that are very, very successful in all areas, not just financially, but with family. And they have a lot of deep regret because they went for the finance. They went for the money, and it just never was fulfilling. Now, the good news is you can understand that later on, or when you're already in that field, and begin making adjustments. I have a client that I work with that's in the world of high finance, that actually really wanted to be in healthcare, a doctor, but was dissuaded from that because it didn't, earn the kind of, money that it once did. So now they invest in companies that are more for healthcare and children and philanthropic pursuits. And so they're now getting that fulfillment rather than pulling themselves out of, the world of high finance banking.
Right. Okay. Great.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thanks for the additional example. And the other thing that we were going to talk about is bridging.
Yes. favorite topic of mine on all areas of people's life. Yes, but especially business, because I get a lot of people that like, they'll publish a book and they're like, oh, how come it's not on the bestseller list right now? And I'm like, well, and I'll tell them, I go, well, who are you? And who am I? Who are you? Or do you have a big team behind you? What are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
So
you do these 16 things that you need to do to become a bestseller.
Yes. Even Seth Godin, talks, amazing author, and does a lot on reaching critical mass and tipping points within oneself and what's going on.
Yes.
Talks about you really shouldn't, again, there's exceptions, but a good rule is not to publish a book until you've been at least on social media for 3 years and built up some kind of base.
Right.
So bridging is literally a bridge. How do we get to point A to point B? And I use it. It's a process through transitional counseling that I learned. And so it looks like this. If, for instance, let's say somebody finds out, okay, I'm in this job that served me well for a while, or it supported me with my family. But now I find out what I really want to do, or my soul's purpose, or my life's purpose, or there's just something else I want to do. A lot of times, especially in these times, and I feel with people that are mostly influenced with social media and how it looks externally, there is this idea that somehow it just magically happens. You put the website up, you will get the business ads, you got and there everybody comes.
Yep.
But there's a way to bridge, which means that unless you have, if somebody has the ability and the gift of, a huge savings that they can just leave their career, their job, and fine. But if not, you need to keep that existing job or career. And I say, thank it, bless it, and see it in a new way. Because what happens as humans, when we want to do something else, now we don't like the other thing. We don't see how it fits.
Yes.
So in bridging, there's that transitional job, that transitional career. Now, the really important thing though is when you're bridging, when you look at that transitional job or career, you need to look at it differently, because most of the time when you're bridging or moving on to a different career, or maybe you're running to have a different title, a different function, you're going from assistant director to director or creative director. You already know that job inside and out. You can do, that's why it's boring, because you're just doing it more rotely. So people have to adjust mentally and emotionally to have make peace where they're at, the job or career that they have, honor it, have gratitude for it, keep it going, not over stress or focus on it still.
Right.
Because you don't need to, but for some reason as humans we do. And then begin bridging to the new. Now, this is where you start putting those, you look at your vision, and then you look at a strategy, strategic things that you can do, a plan.
Right.
And a lot of people I work with are like, well, I have kids, I have this, I can't do it. I said, you can do one thing a week or a month or every 2 weeks, whatever it is, or you can do something on the weekend, but you have to start bridging. If you start bridging, you will have success. You will see momentum. You will see growth. You will see change. And especially mentally and emotionally, you'll be more prepared mentally and emotionally to make the change. And then you'll also get to your place where you can maybe do whatever it is you're doing, part-time or as a consultant, or perhaps, take on it, maybe some other kind of role where you're getting more, exposure to what it is that you actually want to do.
Right.
But you also, when you're bridging, you really have to let go of the stronghold of that job. And that's what's scary for people. I've had people tell me, well, I can't do that. They still, they need me, or I have all, all of this. And I'm like,
right.
These are actually self-imposed expectations and limitations, because what you're doing is 500% to what everybody else is doing. Yeah. You're fine. You're great. You're doing it.
Yeah.
So we got to pull back those expectations and then take that energy, that which is energy in the form of focus, and where do we now start beginning to place our energy to bridge to where we now want to go.
Right. And I would imagine as long as those one or two things that you're doing are of the highest value for getting you to the new career that you're looking for, that would be important. So not just more busy work for the sake of being busy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it is really kind of a mental, emotional thing. You have to prepare, because it's one thing to think, I want to change jobs or careers. You know, it's easier usually for jobs, but people still get attached to the job and they can't see themselves.
Yes.
So when you're bridging, and also, you know, you're again, it's that mental, emotional preparation, but also there's a very important psychological function that happens when you're bridging. You're actually little by little letting go. And we all know how difficult that is for us as humans, but you're letting that go, that perception
Right.
of yourself and how you identify. And the left part of the brain, which is the part that holds on,
Yeah.
sees that you're not going to, and this is a big thing that I when I work with people, because they will quote, you know, a lot of people could call it from the outside self-sabotage.
Right.
But if your ego, the healthy ego, which is a healthy psychological function, you know, thinks that you're like dumping everything and going off and chasing this dream, it will psychologically sabotage you, because it's like, oh no, you're going to screw everything up. So when you're bridging, because you're keeping the other going and you're doing right brain but also left brain activities,
yeah,
that part of our psyche goes, oh, okay, you know, this isn't so crazy, because such a crazy idea, it's making sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense to me. All right. Yeah, that would be very helpful for people who don't have extended financial circumstances to be able to just turn one on and turn one off. So that's great advice.
And I would even say sometimes people that do have extended financial circumstances, bridging still helps. It really depends on the person, because again, there is this psychological process, this mental, emotional. And one thing that I have found, sometimes, not all the time, it depends how people are internally motivated. But a lot of times what can happen, and I've seen when people like get a great package or something, you know, severance package or whatever, you know, a piece of a company, or they inherit. Sometimes they don't know how to get going, or what motivate, you know, they've got, like, in a way, all this time. So sometimes doing something that will help bridge. Now, it may not be a transitional job. Maybe it's transitional philanthropic work, or something within the related field that helps manage your time and helps you through the psychological process. So again, it's different for everyone, but sometimes just even taking a position in your related field helps you have those boundaries of, well, I get up at this time, I do this, I'm learning this, helps people actually follow through on what they are wanting to bridge to.
Okay. I was going to say, because as we know, change is a challenge for us as humans.
Yeah. So sometimes people, even with a lot of means, don't do it because they're not psychologically ready.
Right.
As you know, you have your own business. It's going to take more than what you ever envision. So in having some things like some guardrails to kind of keep you on path, you know, and allow for some delineation points, some checkpoints, helps no matter what your means, I would say.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I was going to say, so what do you think you owe your success to?
Oh gosh, people. Great people around me, great support. I do tend to attract great people to quote unquote work with.
Nice.
And I'm just very curious and creative. I will try various things. I stretch. I mean, I was an early adopter to the internet. I had products. I had a website very early on, you know, I think late 99.
Yeah.
So 98, 99. Yeah, I get creative ideas and I find ways to play around with it. Other thing is I test things. I will throw it out. And then if I really like it and it gets a response back,
Right.
validation, then I'll follow through. So I'm not really afraid to try something, even if it's like, oh, that was a little odd or whatever, that didn't quite, or I don't want to do that really anymore. I think that's for me anyway, has been a big key. It's like, why not just try it and see where it goes, and then play around with it, have fun.
Well, and understanding a mistake is not the worst thing that can ever happen to you. It's all just data and information.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So it's okay to be the 3-year-old with buttons on the phone. Just
yes,
everything and anything and just check it out. I mean, yeah.
And I think tapping in to see where, I think for me, and again, this could be people knowing, again, whether financially motivated or more project. A lot of things that I do, like right now, I'm doing this, working with this company called MentorCam, and it's an app where you have mentees and people can ask you anything. So I get to use my expertise. They email or video questions, and then I video the answer. In the beginning, they didn't quite know how to market me. And I thought, you know what, who cares? I'm just going to play around with this. I really like, because I like apps, I like technology. Yep. I played around and I'm doing really, really well through it. And now they've been, you know, marketing. They got somebody else new in because the other person didn't know. So now it's like about releasing anxiety. They'll promote me or say, find your life's purpose or understand your life's purpose. I've been talking a lot of MentorCam about bridging. So a lot of people are wanting to get into new fields with everything that's going on.
Right.
And I had people say, well, why are you doing that? Or, you know, because they pay you by the question, one question, and then it's a certain amount, and then 5 questions, whatever, however they do it. I thought, I don't know. I like this. Maybe I'll do more. Maybe I'll raise the price. I don't know. Right now, I like what's happening with this.
Right.
And I like like you and I are talking, I like the connection.
Yes.
People video me, I video you back. We get this relationship going, this rapport. I give them things to do to support them on their path. And, but I've had a lot of little naysayers. So I think one thing is people, sometimes you got to like not listen to the naysayers and like check in with your heart. Like, is this, like you said, the 3-year-old, this is fun for me. Yeah. I like doing this.
Well, and the other side of that too, when we're talking about people who might be negative or naysayers, is that I've been told more than a couple times is only take advice from people who you would trade positions with or who are in a place that you might aspire to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's the advice that you should take.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, again, what helped me. I think why I like the mentoring so much is mentoring helped me. And it wasn't always a long course or certificate or degree. It was these little tidbits. I went, oh,
yeah,
try this. And you're like, so that's why I think, you know, I know the Buddhists say, you know, in Zen Buddhism, beginner's mind, but and it goes back to what you were saying about the 3-year-old pushing buttons.
Yeah.
I think to be successful in anything is you have your ideas, your ways at work, and you can fall back on that, but that you do need to integrate some kind of openness, or why not?
Right.
Go back to being a beginner and trying something, maybe even something that you've done before, try it in a new way, or there's a new angle. There's
curiosity is great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I got to say also, the platforms that I'm on right now that I'm using, platforms and or apps, every single thing that I'm on, I had a vision 10 plus years. And my team, especially my web designer and that does the back end stuff for me and helps programming, would be like, oh, Michelle, they don't have that yet. You have to embed the blog. No, I want a blog with pictures. I want to tell a story. Oh, they don't have that yet. It's, you know, it's this Flash, HTML. No, then it came. So I would say to everyone out there, if you're ahead, keep your vision, because if it's a strong enough vision, that means somewhere in the etheric, where inventions come from. Where did we get the idea for the bicycle, the typewriter, the smartphone?
Right.
If you keep picking that, even MentorCam, I was told, well, you could do it, Michelle, but you have to build your own app and I don't want to manage. I don't want to be the
right.
tech support.
Right.
So yeah. I would say, just because the world may need to catch up with you, technology might have to catch up with you.
Right.
It may be that you're ahead of the pack, and that's okay.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's not valid.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
So what is some either parting advice that you have, or what's next for you? Take either one of those.
Okay. Well, since I gave parting advice already, I really feel that, people have to just believe in themselves and trust what they get. Write it down. I want this. I want this. I see this, because chances are it's going to be, invented, or there'll be an innovation that allows for that. For me, a lot with MentorCam, and then I'm launching next week, the 23rd, I believe, Monday, Soul-Centered Living. So I am, another dream of mine, to have more of what I do in an online support for people that are wanting to live more their soul's expression, understand their soul gifts, their soul purpose, which is your life purpose, more fulfillment and meaning. So taking a lot of what I've learned and what I've helped people do over the years and have it in one program and community, so that yes, it'll be me teaching and mentoring and inspiring and guiding, but also a community of others that are actualizing much more of their talents and their abilities and their gifts. Because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I work with a lot of people that either, even if they have careers, they're doing something else on the side. They're taking chances in other aspects of their life, so that they can do something that's much more self-expressive.
Okay. Well, great. Well, I certainly wish you all the best in your next endeavor, and I'm sure it'll be successful, just like everything else that you've touched. So wanted to thank you so much, Michelle, for being here with us today for a very interesting discussion. And on behalf of our attendees and Scale Up Biz, we really appreciate both your candor and your helpful insights for growing a business. And stay tuned for the next Scale Up for Success Summit interview. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you.